We will be talking with a panel about amateur theater and the future of amateur theater, and so on and so on. Now, before we start, you've all taken part in this festival. This is for the groups, and Ella has already thanked you a lot for taking part in these difficult circumstances. You are all aware that this is a festival, but this is a non-competitive festival. So there was no competition. You were all taking part, and in a way, you have all been the best. So there will be no prizes here, there will be no awards here, but you will receive through Anne Gilmore of IATA a certificate, a diploma, or whatever you call it, which looks very official, with 3 signatures of extremely important people. And that is a certificate which proves that you have taken part in this event, which is in a way historical, because I cannot recall a theater festival where so many groups participated in such special circumstances. So maybe Artem, you can just share the screen and give the people an appetite on this beautiful certificate they will receive with the signatures of the president of IATA, Madame Beatriz Celario, and I think that Alitrice Jones is also signing it. So Artem, can you give us a view of this document? Voila, here you are. So it looks like a real stuff here. So diploma of the International Online Festival. And the question, of course, thank you, Artem, for sharing this. The question, of course, is whether next year we will still be doing this sort of thing. So you could see the 3 people signing, the 3 charming ladies, Beatrice, Christina, and also Alla Zorina. All right, so I suggest that we'll start straight away. The first part, we will be covering the 10 plays which were part of this festival. And these 10 plays will be discussed by 3 specialists we have signed up. We're still waiting for specialist number 3, who is Mr. Frank Katula from Uganda. There seem to be some technical problems with our friend in Africa, which hopefully Anne Gilmore can sort out. But we have already 2 of our specialists ready, and I'm going to briefly introduce them to you. I don't know, maybe you can see them there. Yes, I can see Anastasia okay, waving. Now don't start all waving your hands, because then it becomes very difficult. Mary Pierce, don't wave your hands, please. So Anastasia, could you just say hello to everyone? And
hello to everyone.
That is Anastasia for you. I'll tell a few things on Anastasia, and then she can correct me if I'm saying things which are not right. Anastasia Kazmina is from Moscow in Russia. She's graduated from the theater department of the Russian Institute of Theater Arts, and at the moment you're still studying as a theater critic, if I'm not mistaken. You are a journalist, a theater journalist, and at the moment
Yes.
you are working for one of the leading Russian theater magazines, where you write on contemporary art on stage. In Russia and also in the world. You have written a lot of articles. This is what your biography says on performances of amateur, both and professional theater, and yet you have been actively participating as a jury, as a member of a jury in many professional theater festivals in Russia. And you were also on the expert council during the World Festival of Youth Theatre in Tyumen, Siberia, in 2019. So that is Anastasia for you. Welcome, Anastasia. And you will be speaking in a minute about 4, or not 4, but yes, 4 productions you have seen. We're going to start with the first person to talk about one of the shows is our man from Iceland, Þorgeir Tryggvason. I hope I have the pronunciation right, but we can all refer to him as Toggi from Iceland. Þorgeir, or Toggi, is an Icelandic theater critic. He's a playwright, a director, a musician. He is writing theater criticism for Iceland's leading newspaper, Morgunblaðið. And you're also an active member in the amateur theater world in a company called Húleku, an amateur theater group from Reykjavik, the capital of Iceland. You have written plays, you have directed plays for amateur groups and professional theater companies. And I have a little note here, Togi, that you're also playing the bassoon and drums, which I suggest you don't do now, because otherwise it will get a little bit too noisy. Okay, right, Togi, before I pass word to you, you will be sharing your views on the production by a well-known theater company in the world of amateur theater, the company Mannequin from Chelyabinsk in the Ural district in Russia. So Togi, I'm very happy to pass word to you for a view on the first play, Decameron by Mannequin from Chelyabinsk. There you go.
Thank you. Does everybody hear me? Yes, people seem to hear me. Very nice. Thank you very much. And I must start with saying how wonderful to see you all. I see a lot of faces I haven't seen for a long time, and of course a lot of faces I've never seen before. But it's about time we can see each other, and it was about time we could experience some theater again, although in very strange and circumstances that in some instances have made us take artistic risks and explore new ways of communicating. But now to Chelyabinsk. I must start with saying that one of my, I would say, top 10 theater experiences of all time was my first encounter with Mannequin, which was in Västerås, Sweden in 2002, where they did a show called Klinika, which I think can speak for all the Icelandic people who were there. It changed our view of theater. It was simply astounding, and we still think about it a lot and talk about it when we meet each other. So it was a great pleasure to see I get a chance to see a new Mannequin show. And when I say new, I think it's very fresh. It looked like it was quite new, minted, and they have maybe even intend to work on it more because the freshness was rather obvious, and also because of the subject matter, because for some reason this spring suddenly everybody was reading Boccaccio's Decameron. I must say I was a bit ahead of the wave. I read it this January for the first time. I had never read it before. But as you all know, it's a classic collection of stories, and the framework is a group of young people escaping the city to escape the plague and amusing themselves by telling stories while they wait for the plague to recede. These stories are not about the plague usually, and so the book is not really about the plague. It's about things that it was written in the 14th century, but it's very a modern outlook on the human condition and human preoccupations. It's mostly stories about greed, deception, desire, sex, and occasionally romantic love. But sex is quite a prominent part of these stories, and they're great fun. Let me start with saying something about the style of the show and the style of Mannequin. What is magical about it, in my opinion, is how they weld together a serious outlook on the art of theater and the practice of theater with a wonderfully loose and ironic and relaxed attitude to its subject matter. And this was very much in play in this show. it was very apt to make a nunnery the focus of the show. It's not the focus of Boccaccio's work, but a nunnery was a perfect setting. It's a world of seclusion and isolation, and especially a place where there is a denial and an abstaining from worldly things, something we have all been experiencing in various degrees this horrible year. All these things that are what a nunnery is all about are all things that we, the normal people, usually find quite strange and even quite funny. And the funny thing is that even Boccaccio found this thing about monks and nuns and priests and their celibacy and their corruption disturbing and funny in the 14th century, part of what makes him so modern and so topical. But now we all have gotten taste of this nunnery life, so it was also very funny to see that, this world of nuns and priests, greed, desire, and sex. What I was talking about earlier, about seriousness and irony, it's the wonderful start of this play when we have this beautiful picture in this very clear and well thought out setting, the arched windows, the Mother Superior listening or singing the chant, a very beautiful picture, and then she yawns. It was such a great moment. It put us right back into the real world. This is not just some holy woman. This is mostly a girl. She is a human being. She has all the attributes we have. And then we saw all her flocks starting to brush their teeth, which was also very nice touch. And it went on with nice touches, and the lightness and the very clever ways of connecting all things together. And there may be the three main set pieces or stories were all very well thought out and clear mini plays. The wonderful story scene with the cucumber, where all the girls were remembering their, well, maybe the lovers or somebody they had a crush on from looking at this very suggestive piece of vegetable. It was just beautiful, and the work with the table, and then the Mother Superior coming and chopping it all up for them. A world of denial and sad, but mostly very, very funny. And then the absolutely typical Boccaccio story about the adulteress and her victory over her man. Very clear, very easy to understand in this Italian who was maybe not quite Italian, but we all understood it. Very funny way of showing this very classical story about a man who is duped for being a bit too stupid for his wife. And I would say the high point of the show for me was the story about the clever gardener who really smuggles himself into the nunnery under the disguise of being a moron or too stupid to care about the girls, and the really beautiful work with all the fruit and the sex it implied. It was just terrific. So all in all, I think it was just a marvelous start of the theater. You didn't take too many risks with working with the technology. It was just a representation of a piece of theater. It it really satisfied me and made me very happy about meeting you all again.
Okay. Thank you so much, Togi, for this very nice review, not only from a quality perspective, but I would say also from a timing perspective, because you neatly did all this in 9 minutes exactly, which is sort of the format I would like to keep for the rest of the speakers. So thank you so much. I would say, Togi, please continue doing like this.
Okay.
and both in the quality sense of the word and the fact that you stick to the time schedule. We're going to move to the second group, and Togi, with your permission, I would like Anastasia, if it's okay for you, I would like you to take the word now and talk about the group from Timișoara, Romania, the Thespis Student Theatre. So if you're ready for that, I'm gladly passing the word to you, Anastasia, please.
Yes, I'm ready, and I would like, first of all, to say that I am happy to be with you today, and thank you for all performances. It was very interesting stuff for me. And what about the performance 7 Lives Without You? First of all, I would like to say that it was really very beautiful, and I enjoyed your performance a lot, and music and plastic and every gesture are very exciting, and movements are very exquisite. And I think that it is really very important that you took a very minimalistic set, and I think it is really important for this performance. And I think it is very interesting that in this dramatic story you put some humor, and I liked a lot such episodes like with Button, with headphones, because it is really important to have some humor with such plastic and dramatic story. And what about shadows? I think it was wonderful, and it was very strong emotion. And your play with sizes during the shadow show was very important for this performance, I think. And the symbols with black and red, I think it is very important too. And during your performance, I thought that we don't need the plot. It is so beautiful and so right that we don't need the plot, because we feel the story, and it is a lot, and it is enough for us. And what about the final episodes with alcohol and drugs? I thought that this maybe it was a little bit rudely, but in these episodes we understood this idea that somebody in this couple is in a different state, and life or diet and alcohol or drugs, and I think it is very strong and important emotion in these episodes too. And of course, for me, the most important in this performance was the tenderness of the performer, and I think you work in this performance a full emotion, and it's really very important. And today and nowadays, when we have only TV and our internet to feel this tenderness and to feel these emotions through the internet, I think it is really important, and it speak about your professionalism. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Anastasia, for this brief review on the work of the people of Malaysia. Just checking, is there anybody from the group of Malaysia present? I think yes, you are.
I speak about Romania.
So of course you are. You're talking
Romania.
not Malaysia, but I'm checking on Malaysia in a minute, because Malaysia will be the next, and I could see you. Now, is there someone from the group of Romania present here? Romania, is there anyone from the group of Romania present? Not that I can see, because I would like to hear a little bit of them if we have somebody there, but apparently not. Then I'll just go back a little bit, and thank you again, Anastasia, for this review. I go back to our first group of Chelyabinsk. Is there anybody from the group of Chelyabinsk present here? And I can't see, and probably not. Okay, fine.
I can see Mr. Filinov on my screen.
You can see Mr. Filinov on your screen. Mr.
Yes.
I can see him. Mr. Filinov, are you there?
I think it has a
maybe you have to.
He's not in a video. It's just a picture. But
yes,
he's listening.
He is listening. And can you unmute him, or is that something he has to do himself?
I think he has to do it. But Artem
okay.
might be able to do it.
Okay. So maybe we have 2 or 3 minutes from the people of Chelyabinsk. It would be nice to hear them talk after the review of Togi. But Mr. Vladimir, I can see your picture. You're lying down actually on your picture, but you have to switch off your microphone if you want to say something. But apparently that will not work. Okay, fine. Then we'll move to the third group. Frank Katula, are you there? Hello, Frank. Are you there?
Informed us in the chat, or they informed us in the chat that they would be ready to talk in 20 minutes.
Daddy will be there in 20 minutes. Then we'll stick the timer now to 20 minutes and we'll make sure he gets into in 20 minutes. So we back to Iceland then. Togi, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Yes, you're here, Togi, and okay. This is your next review. You're going to talk about a group from Estonia. If I'm well informed, the character theater from Rakvere. And if my geography is right, that's a city between Tallinn and Narva on the way to the east of this beautiful country of Estonia. They have done a play called A Feast in Time of Plague, which is a little bit of a weird title. And I would also say a very apt title for the times we are currently living. And if my information is right, it's actually a play which is based on a story by Pushkin. But I'm very curious, Togi, to hear your view on this piece of work, please.
Yes. Thank you very much, people of Estonia, for this place. Is there anybody from the group in our show? There you are. Hello. From the group character, giving us a seldom seen play, I would guess, a one-act drama of Pushkin, Feast in the Time of Play. I would guess. I think it's okay to guess that we are seeing this play now because of the situation we find us in. I'm not sure if it's very much done as a play anymore. Most of the plays of the big romantic poets have not been part of the basic international repertoire for some time, except as operas. And there is an opera based on A Feast in Time of Plague by César Cui, one of the mighty handful of the start of the great period of Russian classical music. But basically it is a one-act play based on another play by a rather obscure 17th century Scottish poet. And it of course, it handles, it's about, it's not about the plague, it's about reactions to the situation a plague puts people in. Because plague, as other natural phenomena, are not maybe well suited as themselves, especially for theater and especially for tragedy, because the normal reaction to a plague is, why is this happening to me? And that's not really an attitude of a tragedy. Must be something we bring about on ourselves. So it's unintentional, it's invisible, it's not dramatic. But what is dramatic is how we react. And this is a story about a feast. It's about a group of people who gather together to commemorate the first one of the group that has died. And it feels like the special kind of feast, awake. And especially in this production, that made it clear with the procession at the beginning and the coffin that we are at a wake. And we are also in a rather unspecific time. It's a kind of a theatrical timelessness with neutral costumes, but not aggressively modern. This is not COVID-19. And we know from the text, if the English version I read and found online is to be trusted, that this is not the first time the plague has struck this community. The song Mary Sings has a reference to an older time of a plague. So the time is not specific, and but this is a group of ordinary people sharing their sorrow and trying to cheer up. But how? What is the appropriate behavior in the time of plague? That seems to me to be the theme of the play and of the show. Is it singing more mournful songs like Mary does? Or is it singing in honor of the deceased like Walsingham does? Is it attacking Mary for her inappropriateness like Louisa does? Or should we obey the priest or monk and be solemn and think of her sins and mourn? We are in an unprecedented situation, and Pushkin is exploring that, and the show is exploring that. There were some technical problems with the video. It was a bit out of sync, and I think some of the sounds were added were from maybe from another recording, which made it a bit difficult to really experience. And it was very loose. It was like rather, it appeared rather anarchic, with the cast wandering around, even sometimes smoking cigarettes by the tent, a bit like in a real party where not much is going on and everybody is unsure how to behave. This naturalism made it a bit problematic to understand and know what was going on at any given time, but it was an honest way to make us feel part of the gathering. And the same goes really, I think, for the dancing, apart from the final section. It felt like people were dancing as part of the party and not necessarily as a performance. They were part of the world of the characters, which was nice. The songs are really the heart of this story, I think. They were both very beautiful, well performed, and emotional. They are the cornerstones of the show. Just like music is a cornerstone of public show of grief. It's a formal, structured way to explore and express emotions, a bit like theater can be. And this short play, I think, shows us various possible and truthful ways of responding to disaster we have no control over. It leaves it open, which one is the proper one. And so it is maybe a bit more modern than it would at first appear. And I would want to say thank you for this show, friends from Estonia.
Thank you so much, Togi. And I think we have someone from Estonia in the audience. Is that right? Mm-hmm. Can the person from Estonia make himself known and unmute the microphone?
Yeah, hello.
Hello. Is that Ivo?
Yes. And
yes.
Director Tiit is also with me.
Nice to see you and hear you from Rakvere. I was right about Rakvere being in the middle between Narva and Tallinn, right? Okay.
Exactly.
Okay, guys from Estonia, just a few words on your part. Why this play? Why have you chosen this play for this festival? And what is your reaction on the views of our friend Togi from Iceland, please?
The play was, I think it's our reaction for the COVID pandemic.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And Togi was, everything was like we meant it. Absolutely. Yeah, we are agreed.
Okay. Was it a difficult thing to do? I mean, how long did it take you to get the play together?
2 months, 2 months.
2 months.
It was faster than usually.
And have you played it in front of a real audience already?
Yes, it was it's full. It was one Rakvere cafe as order from us,
Okay.
one play for summertime to increase our Estonian tourism, like
Okay.
and then we find this play and we thought that was a very attractive name for the play,
Yes.
and it was a good choice.
Yes, certainly for this period. And do you plan to keep it on repertoire for the rest of the year or season? You want to perform it more?
Yes, we are now playing inside, and we have right now we have rehearsals for second part. And second part is also from Pushkin. It's Stone Visitor from Stone.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Don Juan.
Don Juan. All right, that's a well-known thing from Portugal.
So we in the future we played those plays together. Don Juan.
All right.
First part, and
Okay.
this one is second part.
And you do it on one evening. And with regard to your group character, how many productions you do in a year? I would say normally. How many do you do, and how many times you play each performance? I know this is a difficult year for you, but for all of us. But in a normal season, what would be the number of productions you would be doing with
For
character?
us, exactly opposite. Normally we do year one or two, but this year we made already 3.
Okay, right.
Okay. For us, it's very busy year.
Thank you. Thank you very much, and have a nice time in Rakvere, and thank you for taking part in this this festival. We are going to move to our next group, group number 4. And Anastasia, I am with you again. Okay, there you are. You are now in the left corner of my screen, and you used to be on the right corner. Why can't you sit still? Okay, Anastasia. Now, this time, Anastasia, we are we're leaving Europe with our play, right? And we are going to Latin America, to our friends from La Cueva, Teatro de la Cueva in Mexico City. And they have performed a play called The Sueño de Diego. And I think sueño is the Spanish word for dream, if I'm not mistaken. And in this week where Diego Maradona died, I was thinking, is this to do with the death of Maradona? But probably not. Or maybe it is, I don't know. So I think I can see Francisco Peredo is there. Hello, Francisco. Buenos dias. ¿Cómo está? So if we have some time, it would be nice to have your views also on this show of La Cueva. But first, I gladly pass word on to Anastasia with your views and your reaction on this show. Please, Anastasia.
Thank you very much for your performance, and I think it is very important, good mood for nowadays. And as I understand, your performance is very interesting experience of online theater. And for me, it was very interesting that online theater and the performance in Zoom or in Skype put us not in nowadays and not in our modern life, but in folklore images. And I think it is very interesting because when I have read the synopsis, I couldn't imagine that it was such stuff in Zoom with these windows in online performance. And I think watching this performance, we can reflect how history and some folklore images can be unite and in common with our modern life and with our internet. I think it is an important experience for young people, for example. And I liked a lot your set because it is online set, but it is very interesting. And in one hand, it is Spanish style, as I understand. But on another hand, I remembered sets by our Russian famous director by Soviet times, Anatoly Efros, when he had the performance A Month in the Village. The branch was very important in the scenery, in the sets, and I thought about this performance, and it is, I think, very interesting, mixed in my head during your performance. It was very important too, and I liked your humor, your irony in this performance, and it was very bright how costumes was chosen by you, and how different costume there were. And I liked how you used the opportunities by online theater, Zoom and Skype. I think it was very interesting. And for me, the most important idea of this performance, this communication, and how Skype, internet, folklore can unite us and be important experience for everybody, for every countries and every times. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Anastasia, for this brief on the Teatro La Cueva. I can see that Francisco Peredo is in the audience. Francisco, I don't know if you have understood what Anastasia is saying. Hello, ¿cómo está, Francisco? Can you just maybe briefly give some comment on the show, if that is possible? Francisco, please unmute your microphone. You're just
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Okay, there you are, Magali. Hello. Yes.
Yes, I'm going to talk on behalf of Mr. Francisco Peredo.
Gracias.
Well, first of all, these are the words from Francisco.
First, okay, gracias.
I'd like to congratulate all the organizers of the festival, Theater is My Love, the Russian Center, and the Aita Yata. This has been a wonderful idea at this time of the pandemic. Especially, I would like to congratulate all the groups who participated, which they all demonstrated diversity on the themes and an excellent performing proposals. From our performance, Diego's Dream, I would like to say that from April through June of this year, we made all our rehearsals and our performance with the same characteristics. All the actors were in their homes as per the official recommendation from the Mexican authorities, stay at home. Therefore, we found an incredible tool with the Zoom in order to coordinate and virtually connect all the scenes. We were also able to slightly distort the images so we can suggest the dream that inspired Diego for his great wall painting. It was a great experience, and our audience was invited by internet with a great response. They joined the performance by Zoom, and at the end of each play, the audience was able to provide us with their feedback. This group actually composed by 3 generations, including myself. Our theatrical life started back in 1968, and up to date, we are still 100% amateurs, with our simultaneous professional activities, such as architects, doctors, businessmen, college students, etc., and we have never received an official support. Our working place was a small basement, and at this time that we have an invitation for a festival, we hire a forum in order to adapt our performance to the festival. Finally, but not least, the only thing I can say is long live the theater and the Aita Yata that give us an opportunity to make a worldwide community. And through their festivals, we have achieved something that brings together countries and continents, creating a unique brotherhood. Thank you very much for all of you.
Okay, Thank you so much, Magali. And don't run away yet, because there is some time to ask you some questions. And of course, the people in the international theater world know La Cueva very well, because I myself have also seen performances of you, and I can only testify what Anastasia has said, that the quality of your performances is always exemplary and very nice. But just the question to you with La Cueva, what is the number of productions you would normally do in 1 year, and how many performances would each production be taking?
Well, we normally do about one performance per year, and now in this pandemic, we also made one. It was kind of difficult to join all the scenes via Zoom, and we actors were at our homes. Our makeup, our dressing, we have to choose it from our house.
Of course. Yeah.
All the scene, to try to adapt to the virtual, as you may see back here,
I do.
So it was kind of difficult, but I think that we made all our best to have a different experience in this time of the pandemic.
Yes, and just maybe one final question, Magali. If you look at the whole group of La Cueva, how many people are in your group as active members or actors or directors?
19, including the director, the music, myself, the assistant director, also acting this time. Okay.
Right. Okay.
And the multimedia.
Okay, and one final question. This play you did here, the Sueño de Diego, was it a play which was specially performed for this festival, or did you have it on repertoire already?
We have already on the repertoire. It was made about two years ago.
Okay.
So Mr. Francisco thinks that this was the best performance to make it by Zoom, so we can't be able to still be doing theater.
Okay, thank you very much, and I think I can speak on behalf of the whole all people here present that we wish you all very well in Mexico, and muchos gracias. See you next time, hopefully in better circumstances. Okay, right. So we have covered 4 groups at this moment. We're going to go to the next group, and Togi, I will gladly give the floor to you again. And this time we go to, if I'm not mistaken, to Scotland, and even to the beautiful island of Arran, which for all of you is one of the most fascinating places to go to, not only because it's such a nice island, but also because the sparkling group Withing Bay Club Music and Drama is there. And if I'm not mistaken, Andy McNamara, I can look right in your face, so you're definitely there. It's good to see you, and hopefully we'll have some time to have a brief chat on this production and what your group is all about. So please, Togi, the floor is yours on this Nonquam Non Paratus play from the Withing Bay Club of Music and Drama in Arran, Scotland. Please, Togi.
Okay, it was so nice to get to visit Scotland again. After my 2 visits, one of the things I knew about the Scottish people, and especially their wonderful tour guides, is their extremely complicated love-hate relationship with Mel Gibson's movie Braveheart. And it was a great fun to see yet another take on that. But I would like to start with making the remark that I said about the mannequin show, that it was so great to see in the first moment of the show exactly how you should receive it, by seeing the Mother Superior yawning. Oh, it's that kind of show. In this one, it was quite the opposite. We had these 2 men in very convincing kills with their very convincing claymores, with the young hothead, with the woad, and the old chief speaking, it would appear, very seriously about blood and honor and battles and vanquishing enemies. And it felt like it was all heartfelt and meant and serious. It was not until really they started talking about the order of how they would stand in the battle and who would be left in the vulnerable position, you realized, oh, it's not Braveheart, it's Blackadder. And that was very good. And I think the control over the way to tell this story was exemplary. It was all very clear. Everything was, and your use of the medium, the feeling for how the space were organized with the exits in the outdoor, in the beautiful woodland setting, which way everybody was going, which way the enemy was, which was us, which was very nice. And just the handling of the story and of the gradually realizing, you were talking about the silliness of the whole thing after appearing to be very serious at the beginning, was very gratifying. And then to top it off at the last moment with the telephone, and you were not no longer, you were not in the land of Braveheart, you were not in the land of Blackadder, you were in the land of Monty Python, with the telephone going off, quite totally unexpected, a very nice ending, and the beautiful detail of the actor starting to speak in an English accent. That was wonderful. Then it cracked me up. So all in all, it was just a very clear, well thought out, well produced short play about the silliness we get up to when we get too serious about ourselves. Thank you very much, people of Aran.
Okay, thank you so much for these nice words again, Togi. And I'm sure, Andy, hello, could you please unmute your microphone there? And the first question is just your instant reaction on what our Icelandic friend is saying, and then we can chat a bit more about your group and the play you've done. So please, Andy, did our friend Togi understand the whole thing right? That's the crucial question one always asks to a theatre critic. Andy, please.
If you enjoyed it, then that was the right way to have it. So thank you very much, Togi. Thank you for your words. And thank you very much for the festival as well. It's been very, very good fun to be involved in it.
Okay, now Andy, just go on a little bit about this play to start with. So when was this? When did you create it? I mean, what's the history of this production for your theatre group?
So we put on a play for a festival every year on the island. So our village, all the villages will put on a play. And this was our entry for 2018, and the story was written by me just for fun, and very kindly the other cast members agreed to work with me. I wasn't the director, which made it very tricky for the director to have the writer as a cast member, but we very much enjoyed doing it, and we've put it on 5 or 6 times maybe in other festivals, and also we have tourists coming to the island, and we put on some plays in the summer time for them as well.
So what you're saying, Andy, is that on this island of Aran, which in all due respect isn't a big island, it's a rather small place, but a fascinating one, and you're saying that you have a festival on the island with only groups from the island, and just out of curiosity, how many groups are taking part in that festival? So how big a thing is it?
So last year we had 9 plays over 3 nights, 3 plays per night, and we have an adult section and a junior section. The amateur dramatics in Ireland is very popular. We all get together as well for Christmas, and we put on a pantomime. All the groups combine to put on a bigger performance. So it's very healthy. Though Arran is small, it's a day off Arran is a day wasted.
Yes, okay, I would say. Now, at the risk of turning this into a geography lesson, but how many people living in Ireland? Don't say half, but
5,000.
5,000. So this means that you're able to line up 9 groups, which would mean, if my mathematics are right, this would mean that you're roughly about, let's say, 700. For 700 inhabitants, you have 1 theatre group, which
Yes.
will probably qualify your island as the most densely populated theatre community on the whole thing, because I can't think about a place, except maybe Vatican City, where they have a number of theatre groups, but these theatre groups have an official recognition from some other side, but that's another thing. Okay, Andy, maybe just come back on the play you showed here, or your group showed here. Why this play, and what is so special about this play for your group?
I think we're quite proud of it. You know, we've worked hard to bring it together. The lady from Mexico was saying, you know, the costumes are made by us, and it got a good reception. We took it on tour in Scotland, and we enjoyed doing that. And when this festival was here, we thought it was a nice entry to put in. The title Nan Quam Nan Paratus was just good fortune, because I wanted to have the battle cry that was too long. So I researched Scottish battle cries, and that is the battle cry of the Johnstons. So our Prime Minister's battle cry is never unprepared. And then as soon as I'd researched that, I thought that's perfect, because obviously shorten never unprepared to unprepared.
Okay. So, all right, no Scotsman without some English criticism. I like that one. Okay, Andy, maybe just final one. Your group in Arran, so the Whiting Bay Club of Music and Drama, how many productions do you do a year? I mean, is it just one, or do you several per year?
So we'll put on 1 production in February for the festival. We'll reprise it for the summer, and then we do the pantomime with a big group at Christmas. Though this year it's a radio play because of the pandemic.
And that's interesting. So you're going to do a thing anyhow, but it will be a radio play.
Yes.
All right. So we all have to tune in on medium wave. I don't know, Arran Radio, whatever the thing is called.
It's called Arran Sounds.
Okay, Adam sounds to scare the shit out of us. Okay, fine. Andy, thank you so much of having you in this festival. And I think I can speak on behalf of everyone. It was great to have you here in this Theatre My Love Festival in Moscow. Thank you, and I hope we'll meet again in the flesh somehow, sometime, someplace. All right, that was our tour in Arran, and then we go to the 6 groups. We have covered 5 groups at this time, 5 out of 10, and we are 1 hour into this session, which means that from a timing perspective, we are perfectly well. So Anastasia, you have also been very well from a timing perspective. And this time I'm going to take ourselves to Slovenia, to their beautiful capital of Ljubljana. I'm going to look at my screen if someone from the theater Glech, or whatever you pronounce it. It's here. Glith, okay. Gley, yeah. And does it mean I or see or whatever?
It means look.
Look, yes. All right. Thank you. Slovenian for beginners. Okay, Anastasia, please. The floor is yours on display from Slovenia, from Ljubljana.
Thank you. It is my dream to visit Slovenia, and thank you for your performance. For me, it was very unusual stuff to watch such solo performance, and on internet it was very interesting. And on the beginning of this performance, I thought how it is interesting that the names by Stanislavski, Abramovich, in the moment make us together, and we became in common, and we are, after these names, we are in the same context. I think it is very interesting how these names switch on us. And I reflect that this performance is very important for actors and for all people who make theater. I think it is something very close and painful for them. And for me, this performance was very interesting because there are a lot of associations during watching your performance. I thought about poor theater, about the scene box, because we know that our motherland of the theater, the scene box, and such theater and theater without sets. And for me, this performance was about the idea that the theater is everywhere and is every moment. And the phrase, the simple phrase, "I will tell you something," can become the theater, can become the show. And I think it is one of the main idea of this performance. And of course, it is very important that we have the solo performance. And I think it is right that you have such intonation, like straight talk with people, something like talking, something very close to us. I think it is very important. In my opinion, near the final, it was very strange humor for me in the final of the performance, but I can understand it, like the some despair of the heroine because she cannot to fight with the stereotypes of the theater, and she tried to do something unexpected and strange. I can understand in such way. And but in some moments I like your humor very much, like with the onion, because it's really very fun. And for me, it was very interesting to listen, laugh in the how people laughing in the auditorium. It is very interesting that they understand you and they feel you. It was the second performance inside your performance for me. And I think, but for me, it was the performance about theater. The theater is everywhere. And I think it is the most painful and close performance for people who make theater like you. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Anastasia, for this view. And Zala, that is your first name, right, Zala? Can you unmute your microphone, please, and just give your reaction on the views of Anastasia? What are your thoughts about your own production? And to which extent have they been well worded by our Russian critic, please?
So now I'm invited to be a critic of the critic.
Yes, you are. You are putting in a meta position. Okay, go on.
Yeah, which I find suitable because I feel like the performance that we did with Doris, who is also in the audience, so she is the actress. We sort of did this meta piece about theater, what it means to put theater together. And yeah, thank you for your thoughts, Anastasia. Yeah, it's always enjoyable to hear an interpretation. And yeah, it definitely resonates what you were saying about the pain also about making theater. And I think Doris and I were also trying to write a love letter to theater. And how beautiful it also is to get to perform and what it means to perform, to sort of expose yourself, but not entirely. What are the things that you keep hidden? What are the things that you put out there?
Okay, Zala, let's talk a little bit about the history of this play and the history of this production. Yeah. I mean, was it created for this festival specially? Have you done it before? What is the life of this piece of art you've worked on?
Mm-hmm. So Doris and I created this play almost 3 years ago now. It was part of a program that the Theater Glej in Ljubljana holds for amateur theater people. And we were at first part of a much bigger group, but because of scheduling conflicts, we were just 2 weeks before the opening night left alone. So then we created this piece, and I think we were able to make it so personal and so meaningful to us because we really wanted this to happen. We really wanted to make theater, so we really made it. And we were very lucky because we were also really well supported by the theater. And then, yeah, we were invited to the very first Pride Parade that happened in one of the towns in Slovenia, which was a very big honor for us. And yeah, also to a festival that is here in Slovenia for amateur theater performances.
So actually the group GLE, and I hope I pronounce it well now, which means look. I'm fascinated by the name of the group. I mean, is there some story behind why you called your group Look?
So this wouldn't really be my place to say, because this is a theater that has a long-standing tradition in Slovenia, in Ljubljana, and I'm not formally a part of this theater, but Doris and I made this play sort of under their roof with their sponsorship and their mentorship. But yeah, it is an independent theater. I think actually just this year they are celebrating their 50th year. So they're the oldest independent theater, I think, in the former Yugoslavia.
Okay.
And yeah, I think look as in the imperative. So you are invited to look. Yeah.
And just one more question about the theater. So how many productions are you doing per year, and I would say in a normal season, and how many performances per production are you doing?
So as I said, if we are talking about the theater, I think they probably do one new production a month or maybe 2 months per season. But yeah, as I said, I'm not formally part of this theater, so I'm not very well versed in there.
So you maybe not. Yeah. All right. Okay. Thank you so much for taking the floor here, Zala, and thank you for your production. And
Thank
again,
you so much.
also thank you, Slovenia and Ljubljana, for being present here. Anastasia, you have one more group to cover this time, right? Which is our group Arlekinas, which is always a wonderful name for a theater group, people from Lithuania. And I'm just, I see some people from Lithuania on the screen, but is there an Anna Natalia? I think she's here. Well, here,
hi.
I mean, she's there. Okay, you're hiding somewhere. Where are you, Natalia?
Hi,
I can hear. Oh, yes, there you are. Of course, you were hidden behind the chat function on my screen, but that's that's more my problem than your problem. Anna, very happy to see you. I'm delighted to hear you and everything. And we're first going to listen to Anastasia about what her thoughts were or are about your view, and we still have some time after that to talk a little bit about the Hamlet production, which you have made with your theater Arlekinas. Anastasia, please.
Thank you very much for your performance, and your Hamlet is really expressed me because it is very beautiful, and I had a lot of associations during your performance because I think it is really interesting work with the set, with the scenery, with different colors. And I think that it is very close to Shakespearean theater because they had such different sets of different colors in the Shakespearean theater, and the black for tragedy and colored for comedy. And I think you very close to this style, and I think the style with the clowns and such way of working of your performance is really very close to Shakespearean theater, because first of all, the theme of memory, acting, playing is the part of the play Hamlet, and I think all this clowns stuff is really can be with this performance. And then I thought about the style like Hamlet joke, Hamlet clown, and I think your performance for me had some association with the very good book for children with summary of some very famous book. For example, like some Hamlet for children. How we will speak with children about this great play, and I think it is too very close to Shakespearean theater, because the auditorium of Shakespearean theater, they were very sincere. They were like children, for example, a little bit, and I think it is your style is very important too. And but I like that of course you have clowns, jokes, but all accents, all atmosphere and intonation of Shakespearean performance is really very exquisite and right. And when it is some serious, we feel it with your clowns, with your actors, and I think it is really important. And I liked all episodes with the ghost, because they are really very profound and beautiful. And I thought that this theme of childhood is really important for this play, because all problems of Hamlet is depends of it. And in Russia we had performance Richard the Third, when this theme of childhood was really very important too. And I like your costumes, and music is, I think, really important in this performance. And I thought about such stuff like we have in Russia, and I think you know it, like the Snow Show by Slava Polunin. I think it is something very close in atmosphere, and I thought about it too. Thank you very much for your performance. It was really interesting and important experience for me.
Okay, thank you so much, Anastasia. Now, Anna Natalia, could you please unmute your microphone? Okay,
Sure.
thank you. And maybe before we start about the play and the production and everything, what was your role in the whole thing? Were you in the show, or were you directing, or?
I was in the show. I was the queen.
Okay, you look like a queen, of course. Yeah. Right.
Thanks.
Okay, the queen from Lithuania. I don't know if Lithuania ever had a queen, but okay. So you were the queen, and like
Yeah.
all queens in Shakespeare plays, you die in the end, which
Yeah.
is a very sad thing. But if you can't stand dying, then you shouldn't do a Shakespeare play. Anyway, now with regard to what has been said by Anastasia and this Hamlet production, I would like to hear some reactions on your behalf, and also this huge play Hamlet, which is such a loaded history. I mean, which could cause some intimidation with all theater people, let alone amateur theater people. Why Hamlet? How did you do it, and in which respect do you recognize your play after the comments Anastasia made? Please, Anna.
Mm-hmm. Sure. First of all, I'd like to say thank you so much for this festival. It was wonderful to take part and to look into other performances. So thank you for keeping theater alive even during the time of pandemic. So if we speak about this performance and why we've chosen this performance, mainly is because we've already played Shakespeare before. It was Romeo and Juliet. Only there was a slight difference between Romeo and Juliet and Hamlet, is that when we played Romeo and Juliet, it was mostly completely clown performance, so it was very funny. There was not such a deep emotion into all of the performance, because in the end the characters did not die, so they became actors, and so it was mostly it was more it was better for children than, for example, Hamlet, because Hamlet, we decided to go a little bit deeper into the emotions and show the audience that even a clown, you can feel sad about the clown, you can laugh with the clown, and especially when you look through the show, the performance, I'm sorry, you get closer and closer with the actors, that in the end, you feel very sad, not only because of the story, but because of the characters themselves. Of course, for us, it was very important to show the Hamlet itself as a story as it is for everybody, because the story, everybody knows the story, so it's very easy for everyone to look through the show, right? So you're familiar with the show, you know how everything goes, but we decided to show this a little bit different interpretation, only through mimic and body movements. But that is why we've chosen, of course, the show, because everybody knows about it. Even if you didn't read the book, you still know a little bit about what the story is about. And when somebody watches the performance, they know a little bit about what is going to happen. They know a little bit more about the characters. But this was our interpretation, and yes, Anastasia, she actually, yes, said everything how it was. So we chose the colors to represent different characters. The mimic and body movements show the characters, how they move. So different characters move differently based on their character, right? The only difference is that, unfortunately, young children don't watch this show that well, because, again, as I told you, while watching the performance, you get to know the characters so well that in the end, children feel a little bit, they feel too much during that performance and they cry. So usually when we show the performance, it is only from like 12 and older audience. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Now, maybe one more question. Is there another life for this production, in the way that you will still be keeping it on repertoire, or is it still? Oh, you are. Yeah.
Yeah, of course, we've already had a few performances with Hamlet before as well.
Okay.
So this was not the first, of course, but I think it will live a little longer, since we did, unfortunately, due to pandemic, we didn't have a lot of opportunities to let people see the performance so much. But I think it's going to live for a few years as well. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much, Anna, for your comments on Hamlet and the way you scare little children in Lithuania with this with this production. I mean,
thank you.
But it is indeed quite a challenge to do a Hamlet and any Shakespeare play at all. I mean, one wonder why you should have done Midsummer Night's Dream. Maybe it is a bit nicer to young children, but it's difficult to find a nice Shakespeare play. But it's very courageous for you to do it, and certainly a very nice performance of your group, Arlekinas. And hopefully we have some more time in some other place to talk about the Theater Arlekinas. But we have still 3 performances to cover, and for these 3 performances, I'm very happy that our man from Uganda has arrived. If he's still there, Frank Katula. Are you there? I can see you with your very charming headphone on. Okay. Frank Katula, ladies and gentlemen, is someone who's very well known in the world of amateur theater. He is a school teacher, theater practitioner, choreographer, and a theater director, being teaching music and dance in Kampala, the capital of Uganda, but also outside Uganda. He's worked in Europe, the USA, and Asia. And Frank has written and directed plays at Kampala, Uganda, and he's also been active as a workshop leader in Ayata festivals, like in Lingen in Germany. My text here says that he is a graduate from University of Makerere in Kampala, and that he has a degree in performing arts. I would like to ask you anyhow, Frank, to curb a little bit the performing aspect in your review, because you have, as you know, like, let's say something like between 6 and 7 minutes to give your views on this performance. And the first performance we're going to start with, Frank, is the play from Malaysia, from the people from Putrajaya, right? And they have done their show, and they have been looking at me right in the middle of my screen. Hello from the other part of the world. I think you must be in the middle of the night for you or something. Or yes, of course, yeah. But you look very fit for the middle of the night. Okay, great to have you, and we're very curious to hear what our friend Frank has to say. Please, Frank, the floor is yours about Malaysia.
Right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Ayata, and of course, thank you, the Russian Center, for putting this together. Just in a second, I want to say something about seeing all these faces here. It makes me feel like we are in a festival again. I know some of the people before in festivals, so it makes me glad, much as we have missed coming to festivals. I think in this, being able to see you and see the work which people do from all over the world. So thank you, whoever did this. It's brought theater alive. I'll go to the performance. And first of all, I want to thank the Malaysian team, the theater Saraya, sorry if I can't pronounce that right, for putting up such a show. In a way, I can identify myself with the kind of performance in Malaysia. This was my observation that which is common with us here, that I saw a story which I would classify as a folk story. And most of us here in Uganda or in Africa, we have that skill of adopting folk stories into theater. And I want to congratulate the Malaysian team for bringing this class story on stage, on this proscenium stage. I observed also the big attempt to adopt to the proscenium stage, the classical stage, and the folk stories, keeping the culture, because the story is told about this group of people who didn't have a sultan, and I can clearly identify what the struggles, the challenges these people are working on. Now, traditionally, if I may speak from the African perspective, it is kind of challenging to bring this kind of story to an international audience, especially when there is more narrative than action. But from the world where I come from, and from, I guess, Asia and Malaysia in particular, every little bit which is done on stage has a meaning and it matters a lot and can be interpreted. So you find every little bit adding to the story. And from the costume, the music, before the lyrics come, the movement, I could see the arms at the back, I could see the sword, and it is important for someone to learn about the culture and then be able to interpret a play. So for me, I think it was a good moment for me, for I could identify with the play, with the story, and the actions that were taking place, and the characters. You could see every character building onto the other. But from someone from outside the Malaysian culture, and maybe someone who is not from the folkloristic culture, it may, and I don't mean to challenge or to discredit the story, it may look as a disjointed piece of work that is being brought together. So I could that was my main point of struggle in seeing how can I bring this folk story, if I was directing this, to an international audience and they understand the story. However, I want to congratulate the director that these pieces were brought, and also the interpretations that went along with them helped us to come to understand A to B to C, and then eventually put the story together. Lastly, because again we don't have much time here, the aesthetic beauty, the aesthetic attempt to, not even attempt, but the energy, the strength, the time into, you see, I could see, like I said earlier on, that everything in this kind of story interprets to the next step and the next step. The dresses, the gowns, the sashes, the turbans, the everything. So the cultural aesthetics that were put into this story, built onto the story, that I could tell this is a nobleman. I could tell this is the subject. I could identify different subjects. There is a particular scene that intrigued me so much, where this nobleman was talking and the rest of the subjects were sitting down and listening and not making any action. In the Western world, this can be misconstrued to inactive characters on stage. But to African or the Oriental kind of audience, it makes a lot of meaning, because there's as you can say, the strength of the stage. Here we have a strong character communicating, and the strength of the nobility of this person, and the subduing of these other people, or the waiting and the calmness by which they wait, interprets onto the story. So I would like to see more of this. I would like to understand more of this. Unfortunately, we don't have time to dig deep into this, but later on, maybe the director can just make a few comments in regard to what I've said and what I could have interpreted and what I could have misinterpreted.
Okay.
But overall, it's a nice performance.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Frank. And indeed, we are very short in time and everything is squeezed into a format. But I would love to hear from the people in Malaysia, their views on their own production, and especially their views on the comments Frank has just made. Please go ahead. Just in a few minutes. I know it's short, but...
Thank you very much.
Okay.
I'm Yo Sharul, the director, and this is a novel theatre. It's a traditional Malaysian theatre with some special feature, and the story must tell about the life of Sultan or king or statesman or warrior, and they use costume, traditional Malaysian costume. Is according to the suitability of the story, start and ending with the traditional Malay poetry using classical Malay language. In between chapter has interlude performance called Extraton for relieve tension and give time for crews to exchange sets and prop. The Extraton show has nothing to do with the story being presented. I'm sorry, the Extraton is not in the video because we have not much time. But Extraton is performance such singing, dancing, magic, lucky draw, and more. And there are many much more specific features in a noble theatre performance. Okay, about the actor or player in this performance. The actor is this performance is not is only theatre activist, traditional dancer, martial art called Pesilat, musicians and students, and they are not a professional actor but art activists, which are their hobbies. The theater was their hobbies and their interests. Okay, in this performance, we combine with 8 groups and 2 martial art groups, 1 dance group, and 1 musician groups. And then the show without sponsorship or funding from Malaysian, from any party, we spend about 3,000 ringgit, about 7,000 euro. We took almost 3 months to practice and prepare for this performance. Just 1 week, 3-day performance, 1 day, just 4 hours. And then involve 180 creative production personnel and management personnel. About the story, the script is writing by both of us. It was result from research and study, including storytelling advice from Selangor branch of the Malaysian Historical Society. This story about Selangor State Sultanate that took place between 1742 to 1766.
Okay.
There are 7 story chapters, scenes, and 6 extravagant performance with accompanied by live music.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much for your reaction and how interesting that you've done this very complex things with this show. Thank you. And I would say it's close to midnight for you in Malaysia. I'm not going to send you to bed. I'm not your father, but anyhow, it was nice to have you on this Saturday evening and even night for you. We're going to move to the next group, and this time we're going to Spain. I'm not sure if there is anybody from the Spanish group here. The group Palacia Luna. And you probably have already La Luna in Malaysia because it's a Spanish word for moon, if I'm not mistaken. But there is not much Luna over here. Maybe in Estonia there is some Luna, and in Moscow already. I don't think that there are any people from the Spanish group here. So they have done a play called Locuras de una Flamenca, which, if my Spanish is right, is the madness of flamenco. All right. So, Frank, nice to hear your views on this work from Palacia Luna. Please, Frank.
Thank you once again. I guess I was privileged again to see another classic piece of art from a different part of the world. First of all, the solo performance is a unique art form. Not so many people do solo performances. So I want to congratulate the actors and the performers and everyone put up this very brave performance. It is a traveling movement, a traveling show. It transports you from place to place. Again, I love the use of costume, use of props, and the movement. I am a dancer myself. And again, I'm sorry, I'm going to refer again to the way folk art is done here in Africa and in Uganda in particular, and how dance communicates. Some of us, sometimes when you do a play, you pick a particular movement to communicate that is known to the community. If, for example, I'm going to tell a story about planting or work, then I pick a folk piece that everybody knows. It communicates about work. So this adaptation helps the theatrical person to create quickly, but this only works for the people that are within that culture. But also to someone who is aware, you can see this and tell where this goes. However, this performance, again, as I said, was very unique to me. Where the lyrics came in Spanish, which was a privilege that I could and talks about dance motifs. He says, see the dance in particular spaces and behind particular particular props, and sometimes people the particular prop for me were the interpretations of the communication, if I'm right in my own understanding. So it is something I would like to learn more. And but this particular show, I think it is very special to us, and very special, I think, to the people playing the performance. I've seen 2 or 3 solo performances, and it's very difficult to pull through, because different audiences tend to interpret differently solo performances, especially if it's not narrative. This one, the lyrics were very few, there are little narrations. It was more of an expressive performance, which I really want to congratulate the performers and everybody who put this show together. And then I love the putting together of different resources, the light, the sound, the movements behind. So I want to congratulate. That was my observation of this performance. What I went away with is that it's a traveling performance. It transports you. I was transported from one place to the other through the costume and through the props.
Okay, thank you, Frank, for these nice comments on the Spanish group. I just do a new check if Valeria Tejero is in the audience, because she is the contact person of this group, but I don't think we have anyone from the group of Spain, which means we can move on to a group, the last group, which was supposed to be group number 8, unsere liebe Freuden von Deutschland. So herzlich willkommen auch für Ihnen. Ja, das freut uns sehr, ihn mit uns zu haben heute. Und ich schlage vor, dass wir das ganz nicht auf Deutsch kann, dass die anderen uns nicht verstanden sollen. But anyhow, so we will continue in English so that everybody else can understand what they are. I have some questions to you because I've been on your website and I'm quite intrigued about what your work you are doing. So this time we are looking together with Frank to play with the beautiful title Die Roller im Roggen. So it's a play about scooters or something, or skateboards, I don't know, reading from that. And very curious, Frank, what you have to say on this German piece of art, please. Frank?
Yeah, curious, as you say. Very curious, Doc, as you say. Well, this performance blew me away. We haven't seen this even in live festivals, apart from, I think, Firebirds from Australia, one of the countries was bringing a special group. But I loved it 100%. And I love the fact that in the beginning, I thought maybe there's gonna be some kind of psychological assistance, to the audience. Sometimes when you have a special group, some director may try to help the audience by helping the actors. So this was a very clever performance, first of all. It adopted a lot of styles and a lot of technique. The screens, again, the transporting screens, the stage adaptation, the props, and then the interactive screens, and then the story, I could clearly see. And the actors, the voices came through, all of the actors, and I don't know how this was done, but you could clearly feel present and also feel the presence of the actors. And so this was a great performance. And I want to particularly be grateful to the time someone put in this performance. And I'm curious to know how long it took to put together, and also if it has gone on live stage before or anywhere, or it will go on live stage somewhere. It is a performance I would like to see over and over and over. And I also am curious, like Doug said, it's very close curiosity. The actors, the attention span, the level of attention by the nature of our special performers, the effort put in, and then the difference in the characters and communicating the story out of, from this actor to the other actor, and being able to continue continuity, yeah, consistency, and the ability for us to hold the story together from beginning to the end. By the way, it's very entertaining, very, very entertaining, and very alive. So with those comments, I guess I was blown away, and I'm still blown away. I'm like that. I'm very curious to hear from the director, or if they are available, how do they pull this magic together?
Okay, thank you so much, Frank, for these comments. And indeed, I would like to ask our friends from Weingarten in the south of Germany, not far from Ravensburg, if I'm not mistaken, close to the border with the Schweiz und Liechtenstein und Österreich und auch ganz tief in Deutschland, all well hidden away in the south of Germany. Your theater group, and maybe go on with just pick on what Frank has said, Die Roller im Roggen. Why this play, and what did you want to do with it, and to which extent does that relate to the comments Frank has made, please? Not all three together, but yes, please. That is Hannah. You are Hannah, right? Is that you?
Hannah, yeah.
Okay, Hannah, please go on.
Yeah, I'm Hannah. This is Alex, the director, and this is Thorsten, our manager.
Okay, good.
So, why Rolle im Roggen? It's our latest play we have, and it's kind of what's happening inside of the boys and the girl, because 4 of them finished school, and so that's what's happening right now in their life. So they have to leave school, they have to find something they can do, and to find what they can how they can impress themselves in life. And so that's why this theme is important right now.
Okay. Now, I would like to ask a little bit about your group, because your group is called UK Theater, which is nothing to do with the United Kingdom, or should I now say the disunited kingdom? This is a very faint joke for Anne Gilmore, thank you. But actually the the UK stands for Unterstütze Kommunikation, and that is intriguing. Why? What is the meaning of this name? And is it also right? I've googled a bit on your website. Your theater is called the Theater der Geschwisterschule. So there is a link with a school apparently. So please tell a little bit about the history of your theater and this fascinating name of Unterstütze Kommunikation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Communication means augmentative and alternative communication. People, we are a school for disabled children and young adults, and they have the special handicap, they can't talk, but they have all the time the words inside their head, and so with the supported communication they have the possibility to talk, to say something, and for this we use those iPads or other computers.
Okay.
And for short demonstration, we can show, we can speak in every language.
We can, for example, just speak English.
UK Theatre from Germany is happy to be part of the festival. Theatre
Okay.
is my...
And normally the voices sounds like this. It's from a computer, and we use real voices that we are searching for the boys and girls, and maybe we are also able to speak
по-русски.
Спасибо, что нам можно сегодня быть с вами, потому что театр – это наша большая любовь.
Okay, wonderful. It's so nice to have you as the last group, because you sort of summarized the whole of the 9 groups together. Now let me ask a little bit more about your theater group. So this production, Die Roller im Roggen, is it a show which is still on? Do you continue to have it on repertoire? And what's the way your theater group works, please?
yeah, we are not allowed to play right now. We would have had one more performance next month, but hopefully we will play it again. But also we are thinking about something new. And when we have rehearsals, we often discuss a theme, and then Alex writes most of the texts. But we discuss about saying things and themes and wishes and what is said, how we want to say things. So yeah, it's a kind of normal work with the boys and the girl, but it takes always a bit longer.
Yes. Of course.
But it's
so your rehearsal period would be traditionally a little bit longer than in other theater groups, you would say.
Yeah. We need
2 years.
2 years
for one play.
Wonderful, right? And then, but you keep it on for a longer time after you have finished it.
Yeah. So we played after that 2-3 years, and then the next.
All right. So so it originates from the school, right? So the theater group is part of the school, or inside, or what is the link exactly between the school and your theater group?
It's a combination from the school,
yes,
and the local theater in Ravensburg.
Yeah. Okay.
The combination.
All right, I see. Thank you very much for your explanation, and what a wonderful group you're having, and with all these languages. It's such a nice summary of this whole event, I would say. So I wish you noch einen schönen Abend, Kinder. Ganz unten im Deutschland.
Yes,
that's a little bit unfriendly to say it that way, because they are so close.
I just have one question for the team leaders. I hope time allows us. What is the chronological work process? I was throughout wondering what comes first, and how do you choose what comes first?
Mm-hmm.
Just go through us the work process. How do you?
Yeah, if it takes 3 years, I mean, there must be a whole process behind, which follows a certain scheme, or is it? How does it work in practice? It's a difficult question, baby. Which is for you selbstverständlich, which is, you just do it. But can you explain it, how it works?
It's like in other groups, the same. We talk together, we improvise, we explore the story, but it's a longer time to verify the wishes and opinions.
Of course.
We could talk together face to face. Our pupils and students and members of the group, they can't talk like we do it, and so they write emails a month later, maybe. Okay, and then we put together the play. And
also a difference, I think, it's that we have to do our rehearsals in school for a long time. We just have a short time when we can go to a theater where we all do our performance. So we have long periods of finding texts, of finding voices that can tell the texts. Our members choose their own voice. So maybe they hear 5, 4, 6 different voices and say, okay, this is the one I want to have in the play.
Okay.
And also, that's a long time that we need.
It is a long process. Yeah.
And we like to show their all-day problems, which they really have in their really life, and put it in the play.
Okay. Now on the IATA website, there is a link, I think, to your website, so people can know more about what you do, and it's certainly a very fascinating story, and very much appreciation for all the work you're doing. Now, ladies and gentlemen, maybe it doesn't feel that way, or maybe it does, but we've been talking for, let's say, 1 hour and 51 minutes at this moment. What I suggest we do now is we take a break of 9 minutes and a half, which means that part number 2 will start in 10 minutes, which means 5 o'clock for me, 6 o'clock for Tallinn, 7 o'clock for Moscow, midnight for Malaysia, and if I'm not mistaken, Laurie Chase, nice to have you, 11 o'clock in Florida in the morning. Is that right, Laurie? I can't hear anything. She's still there.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Absolutely. Great to have you, Laurie. Don't run away. Fine, you can make it. And we hope to see you all back now. I squandered half a minute in 9 minutes. So be sharp. 9 minutes from here, we start with part number 2. Have a small break. Okay, see you all.
There's very few of us left. Can you hear me? I just see Ella and Alan.
Yeah, exactly. I hope I wasn't picking my nose.
No, there's nobody else around by the look of it.
I won't be staying for much longer, Mary. I've been in a Zoom meeting since 8 o'clock this morning. Okay, so I'm zoomed.
You're zoomed out.
I really am.
Hola, soy Laura. Yo sí los escucho.
Oh.
Laura.
Hey, Ala.
Hello. We can listen.
Hey, Laurie. Hello, Laurie. Hi, guys. How is everyone?
How are you?
Nice to see you.
Okay.
I miss you all. We miss you too. I miss you too. I'm sure Ala does also.
I'm just wondering how things are, but we'll hear about that in a second.
No, I'm still here. Just to let you know, I've just had a text from Beatrice saying, can I send my message now?
Oh, we can have her just at the start of part 2 if she wants that. Is that what she means with now, or does she have anything else?
I send my text. We've never discussed a text. I
No.
don't.
I'll give her a ring, Anne.
Sorry?
Give her a ring.
Okay. Oh.
Is Togi is still there, right? And Anastasia too. Are you still there, Anastasia? Yes, Anastasia is still there, because I should have thanked them at the end, which I forgot to do. I was so hooked up on this time here that I forgot to thank Frank and Togi and Anastasia, but I will do that.
You're very bold, Dirk.
Sorry? Shut up, you Pierce! Oh, wait a minute. I'll be wearing my official Club Brugge cap, which is a lot. Which is also about all the things we miss. Yeah. My wife has just popped in, and she thought that I was getting senile and talking to myself.
Hi, Anne.
And during the break, she said, "Who are you talking to?" I
Hello,
said,
Anne.
But no, she's not there. I said I'm talking to Mary Pierce, and then there was a sudden sign of pity in her
On your bike.
Wow. So there was something like, oh dear, yeah. But okay, are you okay, Mary?
No, after that, I'm very upset.
No, you aren't. I
You
mean,
can
this
hear
is really what you miss. It's me teasing you. That is what you really miss. This is
Oh,
what
really? Absolutely.
All right, and throwing the odd insult at me, which is what you so remarkably well do every time. Okay, so Frank.
May I ask how many festivals there have been organized before this new online world happened?
That's a very good question, and that is something Anne Gilmore, who has now left us.
Okay.
I mean, I sound very tragic if I say it that way, but I mean, she's no longer in the screen there. But I am aware of a few. I myself, I am aware of a few, and this is something which maybe the people who are in the Council of IATA, and Anne is there as Secretary General, and Alit is there too, could maybe better comment on. But I think there have been at least two we are aware of. But let's say, Zara, that this is one of the bigger kind. I mean, this is quite a big event with 10 groups and everything. So you are, without probably realizing, part of history, taking part in a very big, or rather big event like this. So this is, I don't know, Alit, have you any idea how many of these things have been organized, or are there any of these things being organized at this moment? Alit, have you got any idea?
Are you specifically talking about online festivals?
Yes, that's what we're talking about.
the sort of physical ones.
Oh, okay. Well,
millions.
the Monaco Festival there's been 17 Monaco festivals over since 1957, but there's every 2 years there's a world festival which moves around in between Monaco festivals, and then international festivals. They happen all over the world. They happen everywhere. You've got Laurie Chase on screen there. She organizes a terrific festival in Venice, Florida. I mean, that's not just platitudes. That is a terrific festival. Okay. There are any number of festivals. You have Alla Zorina. She organizes all kinds of festivals in Russia. The one that immediately springs to mind is there's a very popular festival which happens in Siberia. I'm looking to see who we've got on the pages at the moment as in terms of festival organizers.
Itag. The one in Spain, Barcelona or Girona.
Yes, that's an important one.
Girona.
Liverpool
is a very
Liverpool
busy
in
festival.
Canada, Lingen in
Liverpool,
Germany
Canada.
is an important one. Alit, Lingen Theatre Festival for Children.
Lingen, the World Children's Festival in Lingen. There are then single language festivals. There's a French language festival in Belgium in the Estivades Festival. Anne is your contact, basically. Anne is the person who can steer you towards festivals and probably steer you towards the right festival for your production, because often there's there are different artistic views in terms of what makes the program and what have you. So it should be able to give you a steer on which festival would be most appropriate for a production.
Okay, thank you so much. This was wonderful.
That's the whole story. I can see now the time in my country at least is 5 o'clock. I suggest we have, let's say, 5 more minutes before we really start again, but not more than 5. Just to make sure that we have the people attending who need to be attending. I'm just checking. Yes, Christina, I have now I have your face again in front of me. Okay, Richard, you're there again. Toggy, you have blinded the screen, but I guess you're still there because I want to say officially thank you to you in a minute. So I'm not going to say it now because it's not official. No, right. And Anastasia, are you still with us or are you hidden? Oh, you're next to Togi for me. Okay, that's fine. And Frank is still there too. So, okay, fine. So maybe everybody is, okay, I'll have to admit someone in the room. Okay, fine. I have some messages coming in here from other people saying things to me. Okay, fine. That's good. So a couple of minutes before we kick off for part number 2.
Hey, Carl.
No. So in the meantime, you can still exchange some intimacies as Mrs. Pierce is doing.
Well, not too intimate. Hello, Ella. Ella Blue Vas, Ella.
Я люблю.
Yellow Blue Vas. Yes.
Я всех приветствую, кому не успела написать, и Эстонию, и Характер, и Карла, и Кристину, и всех остальных. Очень рада вас всех видеть.
Everybody.
Да, спасибо. Okay.
Дирчик, уже можно начинать, наверное, вторую часть.
Okay, shall we start? Is that what you're saying? Yeah, Francisco Ferrero is going. Right. We're going to. Yeah, okay. This is interesting because it's one of those 50 words of Russian I know in one sentence, so I understand what she means. Okay, so welcome everybody again for part number 2 of this forum. And before I start with part number 2, I want to make up for something I did not do at the end of part number 1. I should have done, so I would like to thank Frank Katula and Anastasia and also Togi for their very bright and intelligent and creative and meaningful and meaningful input here. It's always nice to hear different views, and even if the technicals in these difficult technical circumstances, it all worked fine. And you all 3 did a wonderful job from the quality perspective as well as from the quantity perspective, because what you said was meaningful and appreciative on the one hand, and you kept within the time frame we sort of agreed, which is fine. It's always such a terrible thing if you're a moderator in this thing to kindly say to people, could you please shut up and leave words to other people? But you did not do that, which was so nice. So I could stay in a very gentle position, which is also my preferred position. So thank you so much for that, and let's hope we'll meet again somehow, somewhere, somewhen. There's a bit of Vera Lynn creeping in now. All right, so we move to part number 2, which is a discussion on amateur theater, a discussion on the future of amateur theater even. Before we start with that discussion, there is just a number of things I would like to agree with you. Basically, a number of things with regard to rules of the game. Unfortunately, of course, we cannot have you all speak and ask questions and everything. So I would like to ask you to keep your microphones muted like they have been during part number 1. But I would like to encourage you during the conversation we're going to have with our 3 panelists. I would like to encourage you to answer or to ask questions and use the chat function for that. So that would be very nice if from time to time we could have some questions from the audience, and that the people can ask some questions to the people in the panel. So then everybody has the possibility to ask and to have this discussion the way they would like to have it. So it's my honor now to introduce these 3 people, and I'm going to start with Christina Olmer, from Tallinn, Estonia. Christina is the executive director of the Amateur Theatre Association of Estonia, which, of course, as the name says, coordinates the work of amateur theatre in Estonia. They organize workshop festivals, meeting, and so on. She's also the representative for the Nordic and Baltic Amateur Theatre Alliance, NEATA. And they also organize and asking about questions during the about festivals during the interval. There is also a very famous NEATA festival held biannually, I think every 2 years. And apart from that, Christina is also a drama teacher in Tallinn and active in the amateur theater scene in the Omeri Theater in Tallinn. What a nice name that is. We also have Richard. And yes, you're there. Hello, Richard. Nice to see you.
I'm here. Hello, everybody.
Hello, Richard. Richard is a familiar face in the world of amateur theater, of course, because he is, if I'm not mistaken, you're born in the UK, aren't you, Richard?
Indeed.
Yes.
Indeed.
And you, it's a bit unrespectful to say that you fled the country, but which you did in 2010 or something. But you spent quite a large part of your life in the United Kingdom, where you have been one of the very first people to get a degree in drama and education in the late 60s, which a little bit betrays your age, if I can say that unrespectfully. So you've studied at universities of London and Sussex. You're a very I would even say famous and much appreciated facilitator in workshops and on international festivals, Monaco to name one of them. And 10 years ago or 9 years ago, you went to live in South Africa, where you are at the moment, if I'm well informed, working for the British Council and now in a process of setting up a youth theatre company in Durban, South Africa. So you are calling us from Durban, South Africa. So it's nice to have you in our panel. And our third person comes from the United States, Laurie Chase, who I found out this morning is actually from Louisville, Kentucky, the bluegrass state. Is that right, Laurie?
Yes. I am. And it's actually pronounced Louisville. Just swallow it and you'll have it right.
Fine. So I'll just mark this pronunciation here. Okay, guide. But in my mind, you are from Florida, and correct. I would even exaggeratingly say you are Florida.
We've been here 25 years.
You have been very active in the scene of amateur theater in the United States of America at the Venice Theater Festival or the Venice Theater in Florida. So you've served as a coordinator in that festival since 2008, and you're also a very active person in the AACT, which is the American Amateur and Community Theater group, so to say. And you also have a past and maybe also still a future as a professional actress, if I'm not mistaken. So
correct.
You've acted on the stage professionally, and you've been very involved in all sorts of roles people can play in the world of theater. So these three people are our most expert people, and it's great to have them, all of us. So we're looking forward to a nice panel and a nice debate. And I would like to put a first question on the table, and it's the question for the three of you, but I will be sort of authoritative and say who can speak first, and then this all goes in a smooth way. So Christina, you will be the one to open. And the first question I would like to ask you is that if you look back on amateur theater, and let's take 20 years or 25 years as the time span, which is even for a young person like you enough to look back on. What are certain trends or evolutions or things which have changed or not changed you have seen in the past 25 years in the amateur theater field? Christina.
Hello, everybody. I have to start that 25 years is too much to me, because I started in amateur theater field in 2001, and these are my memories, what I can use now. But what I have seen, and my opinion is that for me, the amateur theater has grown, in my point of view, that I have seen, if I look back every year, for example, if I had a chance to go to see some festivals, I can see that the quality of performances has risen. I have seen that the director's work has going much more interesting, and the performances has been so good and so excellent. But I don't know, is it like a trend that can we, or I can say that in my opinion, the quality and the amateur theatre field has grown, and more professional. I would use that word.
Okay. So you see an increase in quality, so to say. And is that also something, Richard? You agree with that, or you?
Yeah,
have
I think so.
A similar view.
I can go back even further. I normally tell people here I'm not an old man, but not so young, and I can go back to when I first participated in amateur theatre, which was in the 1950s at school. And I have to say that over the many years in which I participated and directed and adjudicated at festivals, not only has the quality of amateur theatre risen quite considerably, but also the innovative nature of theatre. It's much more exciting, much more adventurous. Companies are much more prepared to take risks, and are taking those risks. So that some of the most exciting theatre I've seen across Europe and on the continent of South America and on this continent has been the most exciting and innovative form of theatre.
Okay, thank you. Laurie, what about you? What are your views on this?
I completely agree with the quality. I'm not too far behind Richard, so I've seen a lot as well improve. I think I'll take it to the technological side of it. There's been such a huge growth in the accompaniment to theater, with as far as music or the videography that you see in so many productions now. That was something that when I first started was totally unheard of. It was never done. So that's been exciting, I think, through the years as well, to find not just the quality improvement in performances and presentations, but just the tech aspects of it as well.
Okay. Now, before we go on, I have a short message in the chat box here that Alla Zorina wants to say a few words, maybe on this question, or you want to have a general remark. So please, Alla, you wanted to comment on things, and Arseny, you're standby for the translation. Yes, please.
Ну, я благодарю всех трех выступающих. У меня, собственно, нет вопросов, но я тоже подготовила небольшое сообщение и хотела попросить Арсения, чтобы он его прочитал, потому что, к сожалению, я не говорю на английском языке.
I would like to thank all three of you for coming today. I don't have any questions or remarks to say right now, but I prepared a speech which Arseny, me, is gonna read right now. Just a second.
It's possible?
Is it possible?
Mm-hmm. Everything is possible.
Спасибо.
All right. So,
for you.
Today, the world of amateur theater is not just a fashionable or popular hobby. It is a large-scale movement that covers all continents of the world. What segments of the population are involved in this movement? We'll ask ourselves right now, and the answers will immediately follow. Children, teenagers, young people, students, and older people are involved in amateur theaters. In the world, all segments of the population. Amateur theaters are based at schools, colleges, universities, cultural centers, and rare lucky people have their own premises and pay rent for them, or rent stage platforms for performances, having only a small space for rehearsals. But wherever amateur theaters are based, it unites people with a pure and bright inspiration and a selfless attitude to creativity. And it is very important to attract the attention of the audience and the public to amateur theaters in large and small cities. It is no secret that where there are no professional groups, amateur groups perform the function of professional theater. Performances of amateur theaters, especially for children and teenagers, are the first meeting with the art of theater. Today, drama theaters, puppet theaters, pantomime theaters, dance theaters, musical theaters, chamber and street groups are successfully operating. What are amateur theaters playing today? They put on performances based on works of world classics, and can often find performances based on the works of William Shakespeare, Chekhov, Greek tragedies, national classics, and etc. Theater groups play absurd plays, comedies, dramas, melodramas, musicals, compose texts themselves based on the realities of the life. Amateur play verbal and non-verbal performances. You can often find mono performances for two, but for children, teenagers, and student groups, and characterized by multi-populated performances. As a rule, and large numbers of participants are engaged in such groups. It is known that in some countries, amateur groups are sometimes prohibited from staging works of national national drama, or are not very welcome. Fortunately, in Russia, many modern playwrights do not mind when amateur theaters turn to them for permission to stage in a particular play. And this is great because, in my opinion, modern drama should be staged. It should be implemented in the theater, and it doesn't matter whether it is professional or amateur. In the case, modern drama will develop a change, improve, and go further. A notable feature of amateur theaters in Russia in the middle of the last century, which is their merit, was that they brought to the theater the works of writers, poets, and playwrights, which official censorship didn't allow on stages of professional theaters. Thanks to the performances of these authors in a very interesting amateur theaters in Russia, many playwrights and writers later became very popular in professional theaters. Indeed, it was so, and it wasn't not invented by me. In my opinion, the voluntary free association of people in amateur theaters is a unique phenomenon, since the important and the main content of their creativity is a special atmosphere. When the theater becomes like a common home and a selfless feeling of camaraderie, friendship, trust, and human understanding, and are perceived not only as necessary conditions for creativity, but also as important values. This was, is, and I think will be, because all these concepts define today and will continue to define an important component in the creative activity of amateur theaters, especially for children, teenagers, and students. One of the important achievements of the amateur theater movement around the world, of course, are festivals. Festivals are held all over the world. Festival holidays, festival competitions, festival laboratories, national and international festivals, and even worldwide festivals, such as the World Festival of Amateur Theater in Monaco, the World Festival Children Play for Children. Born about 30 years ago in Germany, the World Festival of Children's Creativity in Japan. This is, of course, the merit of AITE, which unites amateur theaters around the world, and of course, those people who take on the organization of these festivals in their countries. Let's name some of great international festivals in the Czech Republic, Slovakia, Romania, Italy, Bulgaria, India, South Korea, Lithuania, Latvia, Ireland, and Russia. There is no way to list all of them. Some festivals have their own theme, such as the festival in France dedicated to William Shakespeare. Festival of Students and Youth Theaters. Festivals of theaters where people with a disability play. Festivals for the elderly, and etc. It should be noted that in recent years there have been more festivals all over the world. No one knows exactly the total number, but it doesn't matter, I think. It is important that they exist and they stimulate the development of the amateur theater movement, promote international cooperation, exchange of experience, and increase the artistic level of theater groups. I want to end my speech with the words of a famous Russian theater critic from her article. Where are you, great amateurs? The whole course of cultural life confirms the agreements of common sense. There are no amateurs and professionals. There is something that is talented and something that is mediocre. Amateurs can lose in the professional to the professionals in technology, but they win by human talent. And a little remark: in a recent conversation by phone from one of well-known theatrical figures of Russia, said to me, "Oh, future romantic theater." I enjoyed very much. And you?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alla, through the mouth of Arseny. Very nice words indeed, and a lot of things which you have said, Alla, will be dealt with during the panel discussion. And we already started with one item on the trend or the past 20 years, and there was the word innovation, which was noted by Richard, and also the word riskiness. And this is a question I would like to put to all three of you, Christina, Richard, and Laurie. And I start with you. Why do you think is it that the amateur theaters can do more risky stuff than professionals? Because that is what Richard said. Laurie, what is your view?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I'm not sure in the United States that's actually the case. There's a lot of stuff, there's a lot of money on Broadway where they can do extremely risky things that we can't afford to do in the amateur field simply because of making a living through the theater for, keeping the business going. There are some, we do have some leeway in being able to do less popular things sometimes because we don't have to fill 5,000 seat houses and pay New York prices.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think there's a give and take on both sides.
Yeah. But Richard, where did your remark on this risky, more risky profile of amateur theater comes from?
Well, I think it came. I think certainly over the period of years at festival submissions and work that I've seen in Europe. I saw a lot of exciting work in Bulgaria when I used to go to festivals and participate in workshops there. And I do think that perhaps because it's not just filling seats to gain income, although of course even amateur theatre companies need to find a way of gaining some income, and they often do a popular piece or a pantomime or something like that that would be assuring filling their theatres. Nevertheless, I think the opportunities, the possibilities of taking more risks in theatre fall firmly in the hands of the amateur theatre world.
Yeah, so Christina, what is your view on this? I mean, from the northern part of Europe, is there also this appetite to do more risky things compared to the professional scenes?
I see that the amateur theatre can always risk, because I think that we are free to choose the place what we like, to choose also the form how we would like to do it.
Exactly.
Yeah. In the moment, I can understand that amateur theatre is very open to use very visual effects or to use dance and movement, and I think so. It's not only the money thing that maybe in our field there is not so much funding. But anyway, I believe that we are free to risk.
Okay.
And why we risk or why we want to risk, I think so that when amateurs do the theater, I think so we are not doing it for the work. We are looking something else from the doings, from the theater.
So the motivational aspect is a different one. Now I would like to take us to the future, and we have identified, or you have identified, some trends which apparently are not shared all over the world, because I understood from Laurie that in the US the risk-taking element has a somewhat more different look. But Laurie, to start with you. How do you see amateur theatre evolve over the coming 20 years?
Thanks to the work in organizations like the American Association of Community Theaters, they have started a new play festival where they are allowing amateur playwrights to write new works and for the amateur theaters to produce those works. In the past, we've always had to just do whatever has come down the pike from Broadway and after the professional theaters get finished with it. And this has been exciting because one of the difficult things for a playwright in the United States is to actually get published to where other theaters are aware of them. And this program that AACT started is they can write these plays, they get into this amateur festival, and we have a publishing house that will publish their plays once they have gone through this festival. So it's a great opportunity for both the amateur playwrights and the amateur theaters, I think, on a go-forth basis.
Okay, I see. So, Christina, in the coming 20 years, how do you see things evolve in amateur theater life?
I hope that we will keep our quality, what we have now, but I believe that amateur theaters will use more technology to do the performances. And I think so that in for example, in Baltic countries, we had in the end of August, very small meeting where we actually could meet person to person. And we were discussing the theme about another theater. It's what I mean, that I think so that we in amateur field we are ready to use other genres and other, that we are more open up.
Yeah, I see. Richard, what are your views on this?
I think technology is going to be the way forward, whether we like it or not. And indeed, this festival itself is part of the future. The pandemic, the positive things that have arisen out of this pandemic is an enormous amount of creativity on the part of so many artists who essentially just want to communicate their art form. So if they're going to communicate it through technology, through online performances, then that's going to be fantastic. And so I hope, of course, it won't be the be all and end all, but it will go hand in hand with what we already have. So it's good to hang on to the good and to embrace the new.
Yeah, indeed, Richard. I want to take a subject which was raised in Ala's speech as well, and it's I would say an eternal discussion. And I'd like to start with you on this, Richard. It's the eternal discussion, the relationship between the amateur and professional. Now, there's lots to be said about that. I'm going to put it forward in a somewhat provoking question. Does it even still make sense to make this difference between amateurs and professionals?
I don't really think it does, because I mean, we clearly know that for the professionals, it's a job and they're getting paid for it. However, I want to just cite a particular way, if you don't mind, that I have been working for many, many years with young people, and I essentially have worked with young people within the context of schools or youth theatre. I never wanted anybody to come to a production of mine and say, oh, that was very good, considering they're children, or that was very good, considering they're amateurs. Okay, I wanted it always to be very good. However, the professional theatre in its broadest sense has an amazing and very diverse range of experts. And so in order to raise, if you like, the self-esteem, in order to raise the expectations, I quite often in many of my productions brought in a professional, whether it was a graphic designer, so that the posters and the publicity had that extra edge, whether it was a choreographer. I used to work not too far from Stratford upon Avon, and I had 2 productions when I brought in a fight director from the RSC. And so in that way, or commissioning a writer or a musician or a composer, in that way, I think professional, as we understand it, and amateur can go hand in hand.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point of view. And I'm very curious, Laurie, if that is shared by you, because I know that the American amateur theater world, and you already said so in your first your first speech, works somewhat differently. But this difference between amateur and professional, this collaboration, as Richard is describing it, what are your views on this?
It definitely is a collaboration. You know, when I first started, even our musicians were people in the community who were, you know, just beginners. You can't find a musician for a musical in the US anymore without paying your musicians.
Okay.
So we've had this discussion a lot among the community theaters in the US, and we have come to the conclusion that if the majority of your talent is paid a fair market wage, then you're considered a professional theater. If the majority of your talent is donating their time and doing it just because they love it and want to do it, then you're still considered a community theater. So there's kind of a fine line here on how we work things out here in the US. But it does matter how you're structured because of the funding. You can't get grants from certain organizations if you're a professional theater that you can if you're a community, and vice versa. So
I see. So Christina, what are your thoughts on this?
In Estonia, we understand it so that if you are a professional theater maker, if you have education in Estonia, we have 2 higher theater schools. And then when you work at the theater, and you get paid for your job. But in Estonia, of course, we are so small country, there is not so many Estonians, that we have very good relationships with professional theater makers. That it's not nothing very special that professional director will direct performance at the amateur theater, or we can use the professional choreographer or some designer who will help, or also the musicians. But if I try to answer your provocative question, then I think so, of course. From the amateur theater field, I think so. It's not so good to have this, that someone is professional and someone is not, because I believe that theater is theater.
Okay. Yeah. Indeed. Very, very true indeed. Now, professional amateur is one thing, one discussion which is sort of eternal. There is another thing which always pops up, and this goes for theater as a whole, but certainly for amateur theater. And the question be phrased as such. I mean, what is most important in amateur theater? Is it the process, or is it the actual result of the whole thing? I mean, to which extent do you in amateur theater deal with the process thing versus the result thing? And we've just heard this wonderful story from these people from Germany where they take 3 years in total to build this production, where I can understand that the process to them is a very important part in the whole scheme. So I would just like to hear your views on that. And Laurie, I would like to start with you. So are we doing this to have the process experience, or is at ultimo the end product the most important thing?
I honestly have a hard time distinguishing between the two as far as what's most important. I think the process is extremely important to develop the skills and the talent of the people that you work with. And I think that the end product is extremely important from your audience point of view, because if you don't put out a good product, they're not going to want to come see you. So, you know, I think they have equal value, honestly.
Yeah, that's a short answer. Interesting. Christina, what do you think? I see you nodding. Yeah, okay.
I'm 100% agree what Laurie just said. I think in the amateur field, we can't take them one part and one part, that they are always together. That if you take from the actor's view, of course, it is so important to develop this person with these acting skills, but also with the social skills and to be like human being and we just said that, and we had a wonderful festival where we saw so good productions and so good performances. I think so. It is very hard work.
Yeah. Okay, Richard, please.
Yeah, I think the end product is the result of the process, and so I would agree with my colleagues. You cannot really separate the two. You make this, you have to plan and monitor the process, and you make that journey. And if that journey is a good journey, and if the substance of the process is sound and developmental, then I think your production is going to be good as well.
It is, and a very interesting remark from our people from Rakvere in Estonia. Indeed, that result is also process, as you just say. The two are automatically linked with each other. Now, something which has already been mentioned in Ala's speech about the sort of plays which are being presented in amateur theater, the way. The relationship, and Laurie, I would like to start with you, because you already said in one of your previous answers that the way the repertoire in amateur theater is dealt with, which plays you are or are not allowed to perform. Do you see an evolution there? And are there certain topics or plays which amateur people still prefer to put on stage more than the professionals do? I mean, or to give it in a general question, what is the relationship of the amateur theater world with regard to repertoire? How is it built? Do they make their own stuff, or what are your views on that?
One of the things that I love about being involved in international theater is getting to see so much beautiful work out there that have no words whatsoever. And that's not something that is done in the United States. It's the United States' theater here. We have always gone off scripts. We don't generally create our own, you know, just play around and see what comes out of it, esoteric type productions. And I have so much love and respect for the theaters around the world that do that. And I wish we did more of it in the United States. So here, you're going to find differences among all of the theaters, depending on where they're based in the United States. A lot of community theaters' work is based on the beliefs and the morals of the community where they're located. For instance, you're going to find a lot more home style musicals like Oklahoma in the middle of the United States, where everyone is much more conservative than they are. You're going to find New York and California is going to be a lot more loose in the types of productions they would do. I remember how nervous everyone was in our community the first time we had nudity on stage, and we would not do it on our main stage. We had to do it. We did it in our small black box theater because we just did not think that at the time the community could handle it. Yeah. Fortunately, they did, and we can stretch them occasionally to say, "Oh, okay, they'll accept this." But there's a huge range in the United States of what style and types of shows community theaters will do based on where they are.
Yeah, okay, I see. And now, Richard, you've worked in many parts of the world, and I think also directed plays where the verbal element was less present. What are your views on this and repertoire in a whole?
Again, I think we want to encourage and really push. Perhaps I'm going to make a push for inclusivity in theatre. When I was in Namibia, I was very privileged to direct a group of hearing and hearing impaired young people. And we worked over a period of time and then did a presentation. I know there are increasing number of companies, particularly dance companies, but hopefully we'll see it more in theatre companies where people with disabilities are working with people without as such disabilities. So I think we want to work towards a much more inclusive form of theatre.
Now, interestingly, the two of you, both Richard and Laurie, you come from, you're both native speakers, native English speakers, and in that way, it sounds a little bit unrespectful. You're handicapped by the universalness of your language because it's so well understood by everyone, which is why it's so interesting to hear Christina on this, because this whole theater thing and the non-verbal aspect of it in a country like Estonia, which is only 1.5 million people speaking the language, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe a little bit more. I could understand, or maybe I'm wrong, that the way you deal with language versus non-verbal things, which is what Laurie was suggesting too, is somewhat different. What is your view on this?
Of course, for Estonians to do the theater in Estonian language is one way to protect our language and one way protect our culture.
Yes.
I can answer for that, why we would like more speaking in theater than doing non-verbal, but I can't say that in Estonia, for example, we don't do that non-verbal performances, and also in Baltic countries and also in Nordic countries. But what I just thought it when I listened, I think that for the amateurs it's a little bit sometimes hard to play all the authors because some authors don't give the permission to play their yeah, and that's I know that a lot of countries choose to do their own dramaturgy, that they write a lot of plays by themselves. And it's and I have seen, for example, from Iceland, I've seen wonderful performances. What is written by the people who are acting or directing, and it's. But I think so. It's a little bit from that we don't get the rights to play whom we like, maybe.
It's a rights issue if it's protected by professional theaters, I guess. But what you do say, Christina, is that apparently in your part of the world, this handicap of being, well, of having certain plays blocked by the professional groups is solved by creating your own stuff, right? This is what you just said. that this is the way you see this more and more. Do you think, and this is maybe a question to you as well, Laurie, because you just made your wonderful description, the typical description of America, of the coastal areas where you used the word free and loose and everything. This is a very tricky question to you, being a US citizen, but do you see an evolution there? Would you say that in 25 years' time, the myth of America, so the core America, would be more open to things where the coastal sides of America are more open to now? Or is this at this very moment a difficult question to answer, which is exactly the reason I'm asking it to you?
There are changes going on all across this country. As anybody who watches the news on us over here, we're not as crazy as we seem. You're seeing, for instance, Georgia, which has always been a very conservative, the Atlanta area, which is a very large metro, has grown a lot, and it's beginning to expand outside of Atlanta. So, for instance, that's a state in the United States that has always been very conservative, but it's starting to open up a lot more and change. And I think as the years go on, and depending on where the job markets go, if you can get something other than the farmers into the middle, then you'll see some changes there. It's hard to say. It all has to do with the, and I use the term immigration simply because of the, you know, the thought and idea of movement from one area to another. As the country evolves, I think, and as people move from states to states, then you'll start to see some change in that. Yeah, eventually. Who knows? Yeah. We're a weird country. We're still a very young country. Yeah. You know, it's
Now, Richard, this is a question to you, which actually goes on this theme a little bit further, and it was also mentioned in the speech of Alla, where she used the word censorship, and the fact that in amateur theater, and you yourself, Laurie, said that if you were to present some scenes which would be received, you were not quite very sure about the reception with your audience, you would sort of take a more sneaky view and tuck them inside a smaller auditorium. But Richard, your view on censorship and amateur theater, and interestingly, Ella also said that in certain countries, and we know that from the experiences we have as international theater people, amateur theaters can do more than professional theaters because they are free in a way, or freer. Now, I would like to hear your views on that. And also, this is a question, of course, to the three of you. Also, how do you see these things evolve? Censorship, theater / amateur theater, and the positioning / repositioning versus the professionals.
Well, we know that there have been many great theatre directors that have seen theatre as a subversive activity. And perhaps it's in the hands of the amateur that degree of subversion can happen. Of course, at the same time, we have to respect certain cultural norms. So what would be possible, let's say, for example, in the Middle East, may not be possible elsewhere. But I think that we can also, through cultural representation, of different nations or of different cultures, learn quite a lot about others and about ourselves. It's interesting here. I would like to see more African theatre on stage, on the world stage, because in fact, African theatre has taken on board westernized elements, but at the same time, it has it is rooted in a very dynamic form of theatre, in dance, in drumming, in ritual. And so I think, that there are no holds barred, really, as long as what we give is given with integrity and with respect.
Okay, Laurie, what are your views on this? Censorship thing, you already answered the question somehow, but anything more to add there?
No, not particularly. The style of theater that we do not. The American Association of Community Theater itself does not allow censorship.
Okay, that's a clear
We
statement.
don't ever tell a community theater you can't do that, or you shouldn't do that. We leave that up to every theater to make their own decisions on that.
You do.
Also, from that end, a playwright, if you change any word within a written production, you have to get permission.
Okay.
So
right.
within it's, just by that nature alone, censorship is not allowed. What you can do is look at it and say, okay, can I do this particular production in my community or not?
Yeah. Christina, what about censorship and in your part of the world? Not really an issue. You can answer the question very straight away.
Yeah, but I just in the moment maybe it is more about, I can tell more about in Estonia that we are free. Nobody can tell us what we allowed and what we are not allowed, and even for example, if I want to choose to play with my theater group the Hamlet, but I have only 2 persons in my theater group, the play, so that in the Hamlet is only 2 characters. That we are that in that case we are free.
You're free to do what you like. Okay, so I can see that things are coming to a close, and as one final question I would like to ask to all of you, and it's about what actually this whole event is, festivals, right? So we have mentioned the view and the importance of festivals, of international festivals of amateur theater. Richard, to start with you, where do you see the future of international festivals? To which extent are they still needed? Should they take different shapes? Things like that.
I hope the future is assured. I see the value of a festival being an internationally shared experience, internationally shared experiences, and that can only be for the good.
Absolutely. Laurie, what are your views on this?
Oh, I absolutely love the international festivals, and I hope we can get this pandemic under control so that we can all meet again. I'm glad that you guys were able to have this virtual festival, but there's nothing in the world like all of us being together in person and making such wonderful friends, lifetime friends all across the world. And that's one of the things that I have always loved so much about international theater.
Christina, I suppose you share that view as well.
Of course, and this year the Nordic and Baltic countries, we wanted to help Neata Festival in Estonia, and we didn't have it, and we are so sad. But we are already organizing for the next year in the summer, and we really keep our fingers crossed that we will meet person to person.
And you just do a double festival, because to make up for the year you used this year. Okay, fine. I would like to thank the 3 of you very much, Christina, Richard, and Laurie, for your interesting views on everything. And time is now very close to 5 before the hour, and I don't say which hour because we have about 6 or 7 hours here in my country. It's now 5 to 6, but we're coming to a close, and I thank you very much for your collaboration, for your input, and I'm very happy also to pass the word to the president of the International Amateur Theatre Association, Madame Béatrice Celario. Bonjour bébé, c'est à toi. Tu prendras la parole, you will speak, or will you just say a few words? Switch on the microphone, please. Yep.
Vous m'entendez?
Yes, we all hear you. Yeah.
Bonjour tout le monde, bonsoir.
Bonsoir.
Hi. Some word. Thank you, Dirk. Thank you very much. Thank you to all. Just a few words before ending. Thank you, everyone, for your involvement to the service of the amateur theatre. And this experience made mandatory by the circumstances, was in direct line with the aims of IATA, facilitating international exchanges, coordinating and supporting action of its member. And thanks to the initiative of Alla Zorina, with the support of our technical team, we have shown 10 performances from all over the world, and it was possible to have discussion about the plays and very interesting ones led by Dirk between directors too. It is true that we missed the warmth of the audience, but it allowed those interested to partly glimpse different culture and approach to the theater. This vector, technical vector, has the merit of being accessible to all and easy to use. And we were able to carry a whole theater, its actors, its stage set in our living room or in your pocket. Who would have thought that it was possible? The planet had to adapt to the crisis, so at the theater do it. I tried to watch all the performances, and I have to tell that I did a very nice discovery with a German group. And it was, if it was just for this one, I have to say thank you very much for the openness of this choice and for the emotion. Thank you to all the groups for their participation. It was important to spread this culture with a modern way when we sometimes witness disasters around the globe. And today we have this week we have theater and culture. It is a breath. Now I think it's time to leave the stage, to thank all our friends in Russia and other parts in the world. And I declare this first online festival, Theater is My Love, closed. Thank you everyone.
Thank you. Maybe
bravo à tous.
Maybe Alla, you want to say some final words as a closing? Alla?
Дирк, спасибо большое. Ты прекрасный лидер был сегодня. Настя, переведи, пожалуйста. Настя, микрофон.
Alla says that Dirk
Yes, okay, I don't need a translation for that.
Today.
Thank you, I didn't need a translation.
Я благодарю всех, кто сегодня говорил о любительском театре. Ведь на самом деле мы сегодня пишем историю любительского театра сегодняшнего дня.
Thank you.
Alla says that she is very thanks to everybody who spoke today about amateur theater, because today we are writing the history of amateur theater.
И я думаю, что любительский театр был, он есть и будет, несмотря ни на что.
And Alla said that amateur theater will be every day, today, tomorrow, and every day.
Потому что любители могут очень-очень много сделать полезного в мире.
Because people who make amateur theater and amateur culture can do many useful things in our life.
Я больше не буду задерживать ваше внимание. Хочу сказать Беатрис, что на самом деле это была ее идея провести что-то в этот трудный период для любительских театров.
And Alla said that it was the idea by Beatrice to make something for amateur theaters in this difficult period of our life.
И я счастлива, что мы это сделали. Мы сделали этот фестиваль.
And Alla is happy that we make this festival together.
У нас теперь есть мотивация идти дальше.
We have motivation to continue our stuff.
Спасибо Анне, спасибо Алиду, спасибо Робу, который, ну, etc. Спасибо всем огромное. Всего вам самого-самого доброго. До новых встреч. Thank you.
Okay.
Dir, ¿podría decir unas palabras?
Sí.
En español. En español.
Poquito.
Poquito.
Sí.
Bueno, he escuchado, me ha ido traduciendo la persona que trabaja conmigo. Primero, un cordial saludo a Beatriz Celario, que nos conocemos de hace tiempo. Y lo que les quiero decir, todo lo que expresaron ustedes, cada quien, obviamente, es otro mundo, lo que es México en sí. Yo puedo hablar por México, el teatro de aficionados. No tiene profesional, no, amateur sí, no hay conexión. Conexión no hay. Hay mucha libertad de expresión para montar una obra. No hay restricciones, no hay limitaciones, solo el talento, la creatividad y la pasión por hacer el teatro. Es como los componentes que se hacen en México. Yo les quisiera presentar brevemente este libro, que son un compendio de los 50 años de teatro de la Cueva, siendo 100% amateurs, no profesionales. Y en México hay mucha pasión, pero no a través de la organización pública. La libertad sí es absoluta para poder expresar todo. Nada más quiero decir eso y dar las gracias porque fue una bella y gran idea este festival. Que siga por siempre el teatro amateur. A nosotros nos ha dado una vida completa, una vida paralela a nuestra actividad profesional. Nos hizo crecer, nos hizo ser más importantes y nos hizo ser más comunitarios y crear realmente vínculos muy, muy ricos y sobre todo a nivel mundial. Gracias.
Gracias. Okay, Magali, you're still there. I can see. I was just writing down my best Spanish translation, but I'm sure yours is better. Okay.
Okay. Well, it's very difficult to translate, Mr. Francisco. Yeah?
No, but I think it's easy in a way also because, yeah, please. It's about passion and about life. Theater is a part of life, and that there is freedom in theater and in Mexico, and that it builds on the completeness of life. This is what I understood.
Yes, that's right. That's right. You translated very good, Dirk.
I don't know. It depends on the amounts of whiskey I've drunk, but okay. And the beautiful book which is celebrating the how many years was it? 15?
15.
Yeah, 15 years. That's what I understood. Yeah.
Nowadays we are celebrating 52 years.
Okay, right.
We started back in 1968.
Wish you a lot of more years. Okay. All right. Alla?
Большое спасибо Артему, который организовал нам и Zoom, и YouTube, и все это было четко. Спасибо ему большое, поаплодируем.
Thank you for Artyom, who make for us Zoom, Skype, and all technical moments in this meet.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Right, so bye-bye to everyone.
Bye-bye.
That's it.
Thank you very much.
Bye, tschüss. Right, see you all. A la próxima. Right. Bye-bye.
Adiós. Ciao.
Ciao, ciao.
Ciao.
Hey, baby.
Okay. Oui, bonne soirée, bébé.
Hello, Mary.
Hi, baby.
Okay.
Rendez-vous à Monaco à tout le monde.
Ah oui, on espère bien.
Ah
ça,
oui.
ça va un peu comme ça.
Nous espérons.
C'est en baisse ou quoi chez vous?